All right. Welcome into another episode of Hockey Royalty Live, the official podcast of hockeyroyalty.com. The Kings are staying hot. Byfield gets called up. We're going to go over a few injuries. And what does this team look like going forward? Like, subscribe, get into the chat, and let's go. All right, guys. Well, we're past the holidays, coming up on New Year. Don't think we've said it. Merry Christmas, guys. How did it go for you guys? How was the old St. Nick holiday of the 25th there, Joe?
Merry Christmas, Brandon. Ross, it was very good. Let's see, rigatoni on Saturday, lasagna on Sunday. It was fantastic. I'm in the sweet spot, or not yet, but approaching the sweet spot of. So I have my oldest son just turned 4. My youngest will turn 2 in a couple of weeks, and the 4-year-old is like, this is like it is so awesome. Like for those that have kids or planning on having kids or whatever, like it like reinvigorates the Christmas holiday when you've got kids of this age. It is an absolute blast. So no, I love it. It's been great holiday weekend. So yeah, how about you guys?
Yeah, mine was good. Just ate a ton of food and a lot of Mexican food. That's kind of what we do. My family does tamales, empanadas. I don't know if that's Mexican, but just a lot of that. Enchiladas, dude. I mean, I ate so much. I felt 15 pounds heavier over the weekend, but it was awesome. Wouldn't trade anything for the world. How about you, Brandon?
Yeah, it was nice. After work on Saturday, just came home. Brother, younger brother Logan, shout out to him for cooking a perfect steak for us brothers over there, watching Christmas movies. And then the family came over to my place on Sunday after like midday. So got to sleep in, got to do your own thing, and then it was kind of like a potluck. So a little bit of brisket, was made by Alyssa, and then bacon mac and cheese and thousands of sweets and some booze, and so it was good. Watched all the funny stuff, Christmas Vacation and Elf and Christmas Story. And
what's your favorite Christmas movie?
Here we go.
It's always been Christmas Story for me, just from a young age, and so like that's the only one that I watch every year. Obviously, I love Christmas Vacation, but Christmas Story is the one I watch every year without fail. It's always been that way, so I had to go with that one.
How about you, Joe? Let's go around the horn here. I want to see what's your favorite Christmas movie?
It's The Year Without a Santa Claus. Give me the Heat Miser and the Snow Miser every holiday. I love the old.
I don't know if I've ever even heard of that movie.
You don't know Heat Miser?
Heat Miser? No. What? Am I missing something? I'm missing something there, huh?
I mean, I'm not that old, fellas. Okay, like I'm a little older, I think, than you guys, but. And I get it. It is a really, it's an older flick. It's like one of those, is it claymation? Is that, maybe that's, I don't know if they,
okay.
I don't think that's accurate. I don't think it's claymation. It's something of the sort though. But
it's so old, my computer froze. That's how old it is.
It's a very, very kids oriented movie, right? It's I've watched it when I was a kid, but like it brings back like the nostalgia.
Okay.
So I just love that one because give me the Heat Miser and Snow Miser all day long. And it's if you know the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, that type of old school movie, if you've seen that one, with like the Island of Misfit Toys and stuff like that, like those ones I love.
Gotcha. Well, mine is Jingle All the Way, just because I love Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad. I mean, some of the lines in that movie are so corny, yet they're so good. There's so many good ones. I rattle them off every now and then. Like, it's turbo time. I love that movie. Home Alone 2 is also really good, but those are my
Home Alone in general. I mean, I love Home Alone. I love Home Alone.
Those are classics for sure.
Well, we got some regulars in the chat. Yeah, Knob W21 coming in here. He said it's carved into stone there, Joe. Jael giving us the biceps. And CJ coming up with our first question. Hello, thoughts on Clark going back to the Barry Colts after World Juniors? It was said between periods during last night's game. I don't know if that's set in stone, Russ. Have you heard anything that's the official readout, or is that just a hypothetical jargon from people around the media?
I think it might be just hypothetical right now. I don't know if we've gotten any confirmation or any word even from the team. This whole situation with Clark all season has been up in the air, and we kind of don't find out until it actually happens. It is kind of it does beg the question though, like what do the Kings do with Clark after the World Juniors, right? I mean, especially with the way that some of the defenders are playing on the Kings right now. But long term, I think that's somebody that the Kings would want in the lineup, and I don't know. It's tough. It's tough right now. It's a tough question. We'll see how he does throughout the tournament. What do you think, Joe?
I don't know how tough of a question it is. Where's he playing?
Yeah.
He has to. I mean, I still believe he's one of the top 6 defensemen in Los Angeles. I think he can be. That said, barring something happening within the next week or two, couple of weeks here, transaction wise, he's going to the OHL. It's either that or they are going to sit him in the press box and have him watch games, or maybe come into a little bit of a rotation. Now I'll say this, and I know some people kind of like will say, well, that's a horrible thing. Just get him to play games at least, right? Like, rather than have him sit. I think there can be a benefit to having him with the Kings around the NHL coaching staff, because these guys do put in work in practice, and individual skill work, individual video sessions, which I do think can help him. So whether that is better than going to the OHL, I don't know. That's I don't know. That's not for me to decide. But I think right now, given the numbers, he's got nowhere to play. So I'll believe it when I see it if something happens from a trade or a send down standpoint. And you can make the case that it's not just one guy. Like, I know everybody wants to send Sean Walker to the moon, but even if that's the case, you still have 3 right shot defensemen in Doughty, Roy, Dursey. So where's he playing? Are you still going to keep Dursey on the left in that case? And I know we don't love that. So I'm leaning right now more that he is going to go back to the OHL just from a numbers standpoint. And I think you could probably make the case where it's only going to be a couple of months and he comes back up after the season and plays for the Reign at the end of the year. So that seems like a realistic possibility. I will say I didn't see today's game, Canada game. I liked him a lot, actually, in the first game. He was involved. And I know it's Canada, so they have the most talented roster, so they're going to dominate shot attempts and stuff. But he was at for on ice. He was 73% for Corsi, 60% high danger. He had 7 shot contributions. This is all at 5-on-5. I thought he was involved in the play. I love his aggressiveness. Little clunky at times. His feet are clunky, and that But I just love his overall. He's almost like a rover out there, which is a lot of fun to watch. He's kind of my style type of defenseman these days. And I think the Kings are going to have to make a tough decision, but if the numbers are what they are, it may not be that tough.
Just real quick on Clark, but that's the thing I worry about is his aggressiveness at times. I feel like can be too aggressive. And I think it's especially for in a tournament, I guess it's more prevalent when you're playing with a bunch of players you've never played with before. So they don't know how you're going to be playing on the ice. So when they see Brent Clark taking the puck around the net multiple occasions, it's like, okay, well, maybe I'm going to have to cover for this guy when he pinches down in the offensive zone. So, and that's the thing too, is you mentioned that clunkiness in his skating. I worry if maybe that aggressive style along with that clunkiness can maybe hurt him. I know he's still young and he can learn a little bit, but when you're caught up ice and let's say you do try to make a pinch like he does constantly, that hard transition style and skating could be difficult for him to get back. But obviously it's still young. He's still young. Hopefully he can kind of learn that a little bit more.
All right, let's start this hour diatribe.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying let's start this hour diatribe right here. I'm just kidding. It's if they wanted him up on the Kings, he'd be up on the Kings. So
right?
So if as much as I'm the conductor, I'm gonna have to put this train away for a year until next summer. But
Uh-oh.
I think it's we get some new rails going, get a new engine in there. Even hyped for all off season, where I'm going to be insufferable for everybody listening about how much I'm going to like Brett Clark. But I mean, it might be what Joe said. Hey, he goes back to the OHL for 3 months, comes up and plays. I'm sure he'll get traded to some team that's in the running. I don't know if Barry is, and then he gets brought up to the AHL in the height of the playoff run, which the Reign are sitting in the middle of the pack, so they might need him on that right side. But who knows? I mean, like you said, Joe, if they work out a trade within the next couple of weeks, then so be it. If their goal is, hey, we're definitely making a trade at the trade deadline, we just need to sit him for a month here on the Kings, and then we're going to use him for our playoff stretch. I don't know. Maybe they do that, but it just seems like a lot of, like I said, overthinking. Like they're trying to play 4D chess. Like this is hockey, like let's just either play him or don't play him, So that's kind of where I'm at on it. I mean, realistically, they're going to do what they feel that is right for the kid, like they've done all year. And it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to a lot of Kings fans because I believe he's clearly better than Sean Walker already. And so
you want them to play their best players, is what you want. Yeah.
I mean, are we not trying to win? Isn't that not the expectation?
Yeah.
So like that's, I don't care if he doesn't have a spot to play. I don't care if we put Walker through waivers and we have 5 million playing for Ontario with him and Cal Peterson. It doesn't bother me. All about it matters to me is W's in the win column for the Kings, and I think he gives you that. So, but we'll see. I mean, I just hope right now. I hope he's having fun with Canada in his home country. Hope they continue winning games unless they play the United States. Just for him as a kid to get to experience this, because mentally he's had a tough last year. I assume he seems not to let it on, right? But not getting selected multiple times, this up and down stuff going on with the Kings. All that kind of stuff going on there. His injury at the end of last season. That kid deserves to have some success and have some fun playing the sport that he loves, and hopefully he finds that at the World Juniors.
So just to kind of give a quick update on what his status can be going forward for this year, like Joe just mentioned, after the World Juniors, it's either OHL or NHL, and the Kings have managed to find a way to get him and stretch just that 9 games out before, so they still have that entry-level contract available to keep intact before if they do want to send him to the OHL. But the thing is, when the OHL season's over, you can come and play with the Ontario Reign in the AHL, as long as that season's over for the Ontario Hockey League. So we'll have to see how that happens. And then next year, I see someone's asked in the chat, next year he can play either the AHL or the NHL. I believe he'll be 20 of age at that time, like we've seen with Martin Chromiak this year and Sammy Hellenius and a bunch of some other players too. So, so we'll have to watch and see what happens here soon.
All right. Well, the Kings are staying hot there. I mean, 3, I think they had an overtime loss, but, multiple wins in a row here. Pulled out a big one against Vegas last night. Standings, firmly in trounced in second place in the Pacific with 46 points, 3 points behind Vegas. Let's kind of just go open form with this one, guys. I'm going to kick it off with Russ. Any positive, negatives about the stretch of 3 games that you really liked and kind of want to highlight?
I mean, I think the biggest positive, it has to be just keep talking about Phoenix Copley, right? I mean, if it's not for him, I don't think the Kings are staying on this streak. We can say maybe the defensive game has definitely stepped up, which it has. I think they've only given up less than 2 even strength goals in the last 4 or 5 games or so. But I mean, yeah, there's been a lot to like defensively, but Phoenix Copley, you have to start with him. He's the one, ever since he's stepped in, it's been the calm and confident show in the defensive end and in net. So I think when we talk about the Kings being hot, it's got to start in net.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm pretty underwhelmed with the performance of the last few games. I think the Vegas game was fine. They were out attempted. LA was, but it was a pretty even game against a good team. Despite they were missing a couple of key pieces. The Kings were missing a couple of pieces. So that's fine. I don't have any good things to say about the Arizona game. I'm not happy with the point. I guess it depends on what our expectations are here, but I have no use for moral victories when you are getting 43% of shot attempts. You're getting controlled and expected goals, scoring chances against a team like Arizona. To me, that's unacceptable. And Calgary was, again, Calgary's a good team, and they had a couple of late goals there in quick succession. But the overarching theme here, I agree with Russ, is it's Phoenix Copley. And they made, if they were getting the goaltending that they were getting earlier in the season, they're not winning these games of late. They have not been, quote unquote, the better team at 5-on-5 when it comes to the possession metric. So I think what you're seeing here is you're seeing a team get some saves. And what's kind of funny about this, and I mentioned this on the last pod, you had games where the Kings were outplaying teams, but just giving up goals left and right, and everybody hates Todd McClellan. Here, the Kings are really not playing great. They get outplayed, dare I say, like dominated at 5-on-5, depending on how you look at the numbers, against freaking Arizona. They get a point and everybody congratulates them. And then they follow up with a win in Vegas, and everybody can, again, no word on Todd McClellan. Like, that's just how it goes. It goes as the goaltending goes. And right now they're getting it from Phoenix Copley, and, Quick played well too against Arizona. So it wasn't just Phoenix, but it's Copley right now. That's the story of lately.
And it's been good. I mean, like we said, the polish wore off, and everybody was like, "What polish? He's only played a couple of games." But now, we're starting to see some shine there, and he might be the darling there for the Kings going into the second half. And we'll see how that works up. Will Quick find his game to where we have a 1-2? Will Peterson stay down the full year? I mean, let's just enjoy in the netminder that we have at the moment. But there's still some questions going on. We'll see. We got quite a bit going on, but we're not in a lot of these games, like you said. I think the only positive thing to come out of Arizona right here is Marty McFly 3333 said, "Crushed it, boys. Finally met the infamous Russell in Arizona at the Mullet Arena." So there was a highlight out of that game. Marty McFly meeting Russell Morgan out in Phoenix.
Can I just I want to touch on that arena or that experience. It's definitely a unique environment, and I think they do a pretty good job there in Arizona. The ton of Kings fans there, which was awesome to see. I kind of expected to see quite a few. I do wonder what it would be like to see like a Chicago Blackhawks or a Toronto Maple Leafs game there, because I'm sure that they would probably just take it over. And the acoustics in that arena too. I mean, I was sitting next to Johnny Rosen, and he mentioned, like, man, imagine like a heckler. Like, if there was a heckler, you could hear every word he was saying because of how small and tightly packed the arena is. But it's the game. As much as the game maybe it sucked, I wasn't that upset with the point. I was like, whatever, take it. Going into holiday break, we can argue that, but it was. I wish the game was a little bit better, but it was still pretty fun environment for the Kings fans to take in.
It seems like a pretty cool arena for like a young. Say you're a young hockey fan wanting to get into hockey, or a college student out there. Like Mullet Arena, it's nice, tight knit. They're doing the reverse retros are pretty dope. They're kind of leaning into that, like that old school feel and that rock and roll desert type vibe. I mean, it seems like a good time. It seems like a good environment. And like, I don't know what the ticket prices were for that a small arena, but I like, I think it would be a good vibe, a good entertainment, good close. Like you said, not a bad seat in the house in your article, Russell. So I don't know. It seems like it'd be a fun place to go see a game for all the people who haven't been out there.
The ticket prices, that's the thing. So I was actually looking at buying tickets, and the cheapest tickets I could find were $150. And I was like, oh, wow, man, that's kind of pricey, right? Like,
well, it's all lower level.
That's the
thing too. I guess you're not going to get a bad seat, but even still, I mean, I saw a bunch of empty seats there. So maybe you lower the prices a little bit, maybe I'm sure their college nights are pretty good there too, because it's literally right next to ASU. So I think that would actually be fun to be a part of one of those nights. And opening night, I'm sure there was off the charts. But it's a cool place. I mean, we'll see how long the Coyotes stay there, and I guess the move is to stay in Tempe long term. I think the Coyotes will be good in another 3 or 4 years. They have a lot building there, and we'll see what happens with them after this year too.
Yeah.
Marty said it was a great experience for him. The only complaint was that his living room TV is bigger than their Jumbotron.
That thing was actually really small. It's kind of funny.
So let's get back to these games here. The most recent one, I think, is the one that really holds weight. Vegas, and let's take it back to the beginning of the year in our previews. Vegas doesn't consider us a rival, but Kings fans are tired of them since they knocked us out, they've had that villain mentality here in LA, even though maybe they're not concerned with us, but they're going to be as our team is starting to get better and better and better. And we're going to have more of those knockout games. So any win against Vegas is a huge one. Did it feel like that for you going into watching this game? Did it feel like that for you, as far as like being at the arena, Russ, that maybe have more of a playoff vibe because of the opponent?
I think it did. It had a big game vibe for sure, I think, coming out of the break. And it all goes back to even the Boston game, which I consider the turning point of the season so far. I mean, they come back from that, fly home. You have San Jose and Anaheim. So we're all talking about how you probably should be winning those games just to kind of get rid of that inconsistency bug, because we've seen them win those big games and kind of have letdowns after. So they do take care of business, beating San Jose and then beating Anaheim. And then you have, Calgary, another big game. I think it was a close game. And then the travel to Arizona, which was the point, and can be debated how good of a game that was and whether the point was good or not. But you come out of the break, and then you have Vegas on the schedule. So imagine like you come out of the break and you let that one slide. You lose to Vegas 4-2 or 5-2, whatever. Then we're probably talking like, oh no, like maybe inconsistency starting. We have Colorado on Thursday. That's another big in Colorado, which, I mean, no matter all the injuries they deal with, they still have Cale Makar, who's an incredible player. So that's going to be a difficult game. So, I mean, if they had lost the Vegas game, that was probably changes the conversation that we're talking today, especially. But since you take care of business there, you look at the standings, the Kings are only 3 points behind them with Vegas having a game at hand. That's pretty crazy to think about when you were looking at the standings maybe like a month ago, where Vegas was probably running away with the division. So
yeah,
now we're talking about maybe the division title being not that far out of reach for the Kings this year.
Well, going back to Sinvin Vegas, he said that their team is predicated solely on injuries, right? If they're 100% healthy, they're going to be a juggernaut. If they get one kink in the armor, they don't have any depth whatsoever, as we're seeing with the Kings killer, Mr. Amadio, scoring every time we play them up on the first line. So it's something to take notice. If they're 100% healthy, they're a juggernaut, but they have a lot of kinks, and that's the main one is going to be injuries because of their depth.
Yeah, and again, for the second straight year, they've lost some. They're not just injuries; they are injuries. They've got Shea Theodore's out. Jack Eichel has missed a bunch of games here with a lower body injury. Alex Pietrangelo is off to deal with personal matters for a couple of weeks. So they missed some really, really key pieces, and they kept their heads afloat. Like they were about 500 hockey or so after the last 10, 12 games. So it's not as if it's killed them, but they were certainly not nearly as hot as they were to start the season. So I think it's a good Kings win against a team. If you can get a Jack Eichel-less and Shea Theodore-less Vegas Golden Knights, you got to take advantage of that. I think they did that, so they will take the W.
Does Vegas seem like a kind of like that Tampa Bay mentality? It's like, hey, we just got to get in, and hopefully we're healthy come May. Like it doesn't really matter where we sit in the standings as long as we're in and we're healthy.
I think they are. If all teams are healthy, they're right there in the Western Conference. They could definitely win that West if they're healthy, and I'm including Colorado in that discussion. I think that they are a team that if they get in and are healthy, they're a really, really dangerous team. So
I think the other thing that we want to look at here and how this affects the roster, not only going forward, but both Arthur Kaliev and newly signed or extended Trevor Moore out with injuries. The Kaliev one was brought all the way back to December 2nd. I don't know how long each of them are going to be out. Russ, have you heard any inkling? Is it just day to day, week to week, or
I think with Kaliev, it's from the Anaheim game. He blocked a shot in that game, and I believe he finished that game, but he's still. I mean, we haven't seen him since then, so I don't think it's anything severe. Like I haven't heard anything like he broke anything, or it didn't seem like it. So yeah, we'll see how long it takes, and then go from there.
And then Trevor Moore obviously being out, shuffling the lines, right? And so they've been kind of moving everything around. Lizotte playing 3C. What have you guys seen on how the injuries have affected the line play?
I think it's always tough when you have some some pieces that are out, especially players like that. You know, we talk about pairings a lot, and those are two guys that, you know, Moore is always paired with Deneau, and they work really well together, but he was out. Kaliev has been so good with Blake Lizotte. Obviously, he's out, so it's going to create a little bit of a shuffle. So that's why I think, all things considered, yesterday it is a good win for them to pick that up. But I think these both sound. I know neither skated today. This is per LA Kings insider Zach Dooley. Neither of them skated today, but it sounds like they're kind of day-to-day ish. So I guess we'll see. The note in there said that Moore was a question mark for Thursday's game against Colorado. So I think, and I'll bounce this off you when talking about, because I'm assuming these are both, we'll see these both back pretty soon here. Mm-hmm. And now with Byfield back in the lineup, I think I would like to see some things shuffled around a little bit to try to balance some things out. And I know Blake Lizotte played third center, and I think that if that's what they decide to stick with, you know, I think I brought that up and wondered if that was something realistic that they could try when Byfield gets back. It's not ideal, perhaps, but as they ease Byfield back in. But honestly, what I wouldn't mind seeing them try, and again, it's going to take a splitting up of that Deneau line, which I know a lot of people don't love, but I think if we try to spread some things out a little bit, I'd keep the Kopitar line intact. They're high event hockey. It's un-Kopitar-like to see them, you know, in the defensive zone as much, but Minga, they're creative, and I want to keep them together, and I'm on board with that. I would put more back with Deneau, but I would put Velarde on that line, and then Byfield with Iafallo and Arvidsson. I think Arvidsson can be a good little engine for a guy like Quinton Byfield to help get him going, and then reunite Lizotte and Kaliev. And I would put Kupari there, but if you wanted to mix and match on that left side, so be it. But that's, as we look forward, Randon, as you said, kind of look what looks ahead here. That's kind of what I wouldn't mind seeing from a line standpoint. I don't know what you guys think or what your thoughts are, but I want to find a way to get Quinton Byfield going. And I thought the line mates of Kupari and Lemieux is just not. It doesn't seem like it's a fit for Quinton Byfield, in my opinion.
That's the whole goal of this, right? Like everybody, it seems like we're trying to find a way to get Byfield going at this point, because played his first game back. He didn't look too great. I mean, maybe it's kind of expected. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how he does moving forward. But I also was kind of a little disappointed in the line mates he had. Lemieux and Kupari, not really necessarily the play drivers he should be playing with. We'll see what happens moving forward, but I don't know. It's only one game, but I really liked the way that Deneau, Iafallo, and Arvidsson played together. And yeah, they had incredible production, so we'll have to see. It's a small sample size, but I believe we've seen those three play together before last year, and they looked pretty good too before we saw Trevor Moore take Iafallo's spot. So maybe if you keep that top six the way it is with the Kopitar line with Fiala and Kempe, you could have Iafallo, Deneau, Arvidsson. I like Trevor Moore being that kind of motor with Byfield, like you mentioned with Arvidsson. I kind of like that combination. And then you pair him with Velarde.
I wouldn't have a problem with that either.
Yeah, maybe you can get those three going, because then you can keep intact that Lizotte-Kaliev combination. Mm-hmm. And I've also really liked the way that Jared Anderson-Dolan's been playing lately. So if you compare them, Anderson-Dolan and Lizotte have looked pretty good together. So that might be a pretty good trio. So I think, and that's the thing too with the Kings is what we've talked about all year. Like, look at all these. They haven't really had the big impact player injuries like some of these teams have, like Vegas had or Colorado has had. But when they have injuries, they have the depth available to add players here and there and change players like Trevor Moore, Iafallo, Arvidsson, Lizotte. I mean, play them wherever they want. And it seems like they're Swiss Army knives and they kind of mesh with everybody. So that's what's kind of keeping the Kings afloat. And I think what can help keep the Kings atop, maybe they get a two seed or even maybe the first seed in the Pacific Division.
Yeah, I think that's something to
moving more down there. I'm good with that too.
Yeah, I think that's something to be taken a look at. I think Byfield needs more time. I know this is not a developmental league, but he's going to be the heir apparent. You don't want to look too much into 2023. And yeah, he's got to earn some things, but he was given a little bit over a minute 20 in power play time. I like to see that. Only played 8 minutes. I think that was mainly because Lizotte was over 70% from the faceoff dot. And down the stretch, they really needed to win faceoffs to keep the momentum in their favor. And so maybe in a different game or if Byfield looked better in that area because he was only 1 for 4, he would have saw more ice time. So we'll see if that changes going forward and moving in there. Before we see how these lines match up, let's kick it over to our sponsor here at DraftKings. Hockey fans, light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn all your small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at a bigger payout. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN, bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions may apply. See show notes for details. So going forward with these line combinations or what we see from the Kings, there's going to be a lot of influx. And we talked about a potential of all these, right? The Brant Clark decision. The coming back from injuries for Kaliev, because obviously you're going to put him back on the power play in his spot because he's the best weapon. You're going to see Trevor Moore, who has been consistently and got paid to be consistently with Philip Deneau. So is there going to be that creativity from T-Mac, or are we just going to see him try to do the same old stuff that he's been doing all season long?
I don't know. It seems like he's kind of riding the wave of what's working for him lately. I wouldn't be surprised if they do leave more off the or with Deneau, even as much as we've seen Moore and Deneau play so well together in their careers together. I don't know. I mean, if they keep winning games, it's like, why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it's hard to say because Moore's only been out 1 game. We'll see how soon he comes back. It could be Saturday on New Year's Eve. But like I said, with the way that Deneau line played last night against Vegas, man, I wouldn't mind seeing them together for quite a while.
I think that's Deneau, though. I mean, whether it's Iafallo, whether it's Moore, I mean, I think this really speaks volumes to just how good Phil Deneau really is at driving play. I mean, we heard when he came here, he's a play-driving center. Yeah, everybody talked about his lack of goals and whatnot, but the guy's a play-driving center, and he is doing just that. So I think the strength of him is as much as anything. So I don't know. I go back and forth with this, but like I said, whether it's Iafallo, Arvidsson, Moore, Velarde, I think that grouping you can kind of mix and match a little bit on that between that middle 6 there, and I do think it can work. But I think that if they can find a way to get Byfield going, because it was disappointing, Russ. You look at, I get it that it was his first game back, but it's not as if he hasn't been playing. He's been playing in the AHL here. And, you look at his common opponents from Vegas that he saw the most at 5-on-5, and it's AHL level talent, and he wasn't very good. So, but I'm not going to overreact to 1 game. You hope it just starts to get better as we go forward here.
Just speaking of AHL talent, I'm watching the Reign game, and Martin Chromiak just fed Alex Turcotte with a sick pass in front of the net. They're up 3-1 in Coachella right now. Nice. So good game going there.
First game in Coachella, I believe, for the Reign.
Yep.
Yeah.
That arena looks pretty. The fans are packing it. It looks pretty fun there.
As pointed out by CJ earlier, the Reign about to drop puck first game ever in Palm Desert. So
there we go.
Thanks for the fun fact there, CJ. Appreciate it. Yeah, I think Byfield has to play better. I mean, it is what it is. His first game back, his line mates, he had 1 day of practice. So I assume he'll get acquainted with those guys a little bit again and that type of stuff. But if he's only going to play 6 minutes on the ice on 5-on-5, he's got to make most of his power play time. Because we've seen other guys do it. Kaliev did it, right? And so if he's you got to make the most of your time that's given. And he's eventually has to play like a number 2 overall pick. there's got to be a point in the season where he does that, and there's no more excuses for him. Wherever that point is, I'm not sure most fans have reached there. I'm sure there's only a slim margin of those fans that are already fed up with his play, but I think the leash gets shorter and shorter with the fan base if we keep giving him the patience approach. Now, again, still young and all yada yada yada, the stuff that Joe likes to say all the time. But I want to see some consistency or I want to see some flash and then a consistency of that flash at some point in this season for me to feel good about his development.
Well, I just want to see him, give him the opportunity, right? And I mean, when he was with Iafallo and Velarde, they were killing it. And now he comes back, he's playing with Lemieux and Kupari. Like, what the hell? Give him some good line mates that can help Byfield, because Byfield's not Deneau. He's not going to elevate the play of Kupari and Lemieux. That's not what he is right now. You have to find line mates that can elevate Byfield's play and help him out, because that's what he needs. I mean, he's the second overall pick, but he's not going to be a superstar talent as much as we want him to be. That's just the Kings are cursed with drafting players who can step in and be superstars at the moment. That's just not what they are. They just have to develop a little bit. So if that's your kind of avenue that you're going with, then yeah, play him with the best players that you have available to you, and hopefully they can do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be something that's interesting there, because, like you said, that vibe line was vibing earlier in the season, and he was, he was creating. And it's not like Joe didn't say, he said in his stats of shot contribution and all that, it's not like he's been bad earlier in the season. He just doesn't look like he's been dominant, right? Like, it's all these underlying metrics, but the eye test doesn't really match for most fans or me from time to time. So we'll see. I mean, Lazat's been playing so well, so I understand with him getting more minutes. I get it. But eventually, opportunity has to be given and earned at the same time and taken advantage of. And T-Mac has to allow him in some of those games. Maybe that's not Vegas. Maybe it's a 5-1 route, or we're getting blown out by a team. But I mean, eventually, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to propose this question to you: does Quentin Byfield have to be a key component to the Kings for the Kings to make a playoff, to win a series?
To win a series? No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I see, when you said at first I thought you were going to go make the playoffs. I was going to say no. And to win a playoff series, like, you need 4 lines in playoffs. Like, so they gotta go, right? And I feel really good about Blake Lazat anchoring the 4th line and being a great matchup against teams in the playoffs. I want to say I don't think so, but maybe. Again, if he's your 3C, that matters. Like, that's a big deal come playoff time. That everything gets tighter. You need every line going. So I'm going to say I don't think so, but I don't feel great about it.
I'll say it like this. I mean, we already kind of saw their answer just in this last game with Vegas. He only took 3 shifts in the 3rd period. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna win a playoff series, you can't have a line where you don't find them reliable enough to play them more than that in the 3rd period of a tight game. So that's the thing is they're not giving him the ice time because they don't think he's going to be able to hold up to that tight game pressure. Which, I mean, I get it. You have players like Anze Kopitar and Phil Deneau who you can kind of just interchange, and like you mentioned, Randon, Lazat is killing it in the faceoff dot. So you don't have to really get away from playing. You can get away from playing Byfield in the regular season if you're going to win games doing it. Which, that's the thing, is like when people were upset about the time on ice in the last game, I was like, it doesn't really bother me as much because you get the win and he's playing minutes in the NHL, which we've all been wanting him to do. What bothered me more was the line mates he was playing with. That's what bothers me. So if you're not going to play him, and you're winning games, I guess I'm okay with it. But I don't know. I want to see. I do want to see the trajectory change a little bit to the higher. I want to say don't want to see this happen for the whole season. I don't want to see him playing less than 10 minutes all season. So I do want to see a little bit of growth going forward here, but it's still a little early, I guess.
Yeah, I think his first game back, and you got a big division matchup. I can totally understand. Not only is his first game back, but it wasn't a great first 2 periods. I can completely understand McClellan in that sense. And you know what, we're gonna we're going to try to lock this one down. We want to win this game. So I don't have any issues with his ice time in that first game back, because I think if his performance warranted it, he would have played more. So we'll see how things go, and we'll see, more importantly, who his line mates are, because I don't want to make another excuse. It seems like I'm making another excuse for him, but it's not doing him any favors, in my opinion, with those two.
So this is why I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. And I don't think he has to be, like Nav said, not a key contributor, but a contributor. Is that you saw in the last series that we've had in a long time with Edmonton, that third line shuffled, the center shuffled from him to Kapari to whoever all the time, and it wasn't consistent. And we lost that series by a fraction in multiple games. If you get a consistent third line, and as Joe said, you need 4 lines, which either you get 3 lines, whether it's the fourth line playing well one night and the third line playing well one night, so be it. But if you get a consistent third line, we win that series. And if we're going to win a series going forward, you can't rely on Kopitar and Deneau to have their best games every single game. You need contribution elsewhere. And Byfield has to progress in his play for the rest of the season in order to be a key contributor for that third line, whether it's his line mates helping him helping his line mates. He needs to be a part of a steady situation going into the playoffs for the Kings to be able to win a series. And I think there's no way around that. I mean, because do you feel great with Kupari playing center? No, that experiment really hasn't worked. Do we feel good about Jad playing center? Well, he hasn't really played center. And the whole podcast 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the Kempe experiment didn't work and how 3C was a glaring spot in this organization. So with all that being said, yeah, it didn't matter last night's game against Vegas, but in a 7-game series, when generally the better team wins, you're going to need more often than not 4 lines clicking off and on at some point, and Byfield's going to be a contributor to that, and a major contributor for the third line, in my opinion.
Well, let me ask you threw a what if or a question out there. Let me throw this at you. What if Byfield continues to kind of go as is here, plateaus a little bit, but the Kings are winning games and they establish themselves as they're going to be a playoff team? Is it just going to be in the division? Is it going to be a wild card? But they're looking like a playoff team. Do they look to acquire a veteran 3C at the deadline?
So you're saying, would you acquire a rental to help you solidify? Is what you're saying?
I mean, if yeah, like what would the goal be then at this point if Byfield hasn't shown improvements? And I know I'm playing a what if game here, a hypothetical, but hey, it's what we're doing. We're playing, we're having a conversation. Would you have the situation where Byfield is he's playing, but he's not playing well, and like, listen, to your point, Brandon, this isn't going to be good enough in playoffs. It's just not going to be. Do we go and acquire a rental? And I'm speaking as the Kings. Do they think maybe we go acquire a rental veteran third line center to try to get us through a round of the playoffs? Or do they say, you know what, this is another learning experience for the kid. We're going to go another run with him as 3C, and he's got to get used to this, and results will be what they will be.
I think it's the second part, because does that 3C veteran help them win a cup? Is it because the goal isn't really to win a series, the goal is to win the cup, right? So if they're not a cup contender,
depends.
Well,
what is the goal? Okay,
my goal isn't to win a series. My goal is to win a cup.
What is the organization's goal as a team that's been in a rebuild? They've got a lot of things going. They made the playoffs last year, somewhat surprisingly. Is the goal this year to realistically win a cup? No, I wouldn't think so. But is the goal realistically, let's get these guys a playoff series. Let's win a series and try to get a little bit of mojo going. Is that a goal of the organization? I get what your goal is. I don't know what the organization's thinking.
I think the bigger conversation here is how close are the Kings right now, right? That's the real conversation. Like, yeah, can they win a cup this year? I mean, if everything goes right for LA and like you mentioned, you upgrade. Let's say, what if you trade for a player like Ryan O'Reilly, who's a free agent after this year? You have I mean, yeah, I'm just saying, like, the Kings are going to, according to Cap Friendly, they're going to have $10 million in deadline cap space. So, I mean, I'm sure you can kind of fumble some ways around. Blake can work his magic. You have a shot center, 3 centers in Deneau, Kopitar, and O'Reilly. I'm just saying, like, this is all hypothetical, like you guys mentioned. Right. It's just, how close are the Kings? Right? Are they a Ryan O'Reilly away? Are they like a Patrick Kane away? Johnny Taves away from winning a cup?
That's the thing. They're one of those plus a D-man.
Yeah, and that's like where I agree too.
Top 4 D-man away.
I don't see, like, you're looking at the center position, but let's talk about defense too. Like, you really have Drew Doughty back there. You're going to rely on Sean Dursey to play 22 plus minutes in pivotal playoff games. I mean, he did it kind of last year, but I don't know. To go on a long playoff run to win a cup, I'm kind of with Brandon here, where I think you just have to give Byfield, kind of throw him to the fire and give him that experience, and hopefully he's playing well enough. Like I talked about, is just he kind of grows, and that time on ice starts to go up a little bit, so he gets those responsibilities come like April, May.
Yeah, and truthfully, so am I. Like, I'm not looking to do that by any means, by the way, to trade for some sort of veteran.
If he's playing like absolute trash and the team's still winning games, then that's your point. Do we elevate this team, or do we hopefully, hey, we're winning games without him, hopefully he elevates his game, right, and he's the addition, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, like I said, I don't think we're there yet. So the moral victory of winning a playoff series would feel good, like, in the moment, but once the season ends, we're gonna be like, oh, well, that prospect we gave up for insert name here is not there. Byfield didn't play well. That's all we're gonna be talking about all offseason. The moral victory will fade within a couple of weeks. So I'm eventually the prospect's gonna have to work through it, and you learn just as much with your failures as you do with your successes. Like him struggling. If he does in this hypothetical situation, he's going to learn just as much as he would if he's dominating. So we'll see how that works out.
It is crazy to think about. Like, imagine like if the Vegas game had gone the other way. I think a lot more pitchforks and torches would have been out seeing Byfield's low time on ice. But they're winning games, and that cures all, I guess, right now.
So let's get going
it's
forward.
Amazing what some saves will hide. Sorry,
yeah, exactly. Decent goaltending. Start winning some games here.
Well, let's get going with the player of the week, and going and seeing who we thought kind of contributed the most. I'm going to start with it here again this week, and I'm going to go with Gabe Vilardi. And the reason being is that he was on the Schneid for a long time. Potts 2 goals. You saw the emotion there. I mean, I love when players get show some emotion on the ice. He seems to have that patented fist bump now, where it's kind of his celebration, which is nice. And he needed it. You know, he was kind of sitting at the top of the Kings in goals for a long time without putting any in Twine, not really playing all that well, just kind of defensively, kind of being out there on the ice, and gets 2 this week as well as an assist, so 3 points in 3 games. And Gabriel Vilardi is my player of the week there.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, I will go with Phil Deneau. In his 3 games, he's got 2 goals and an assist for 3 points, 62% Corsi for, over 60% expected goals. I think you could just as easily say somebody else, perhaps somebody between the pipes, but I'm going to go with Phil Deneau. I think he's quietly putting together another really nice season for the Kings, proven to be a really good signing. So, like his game.
I am going to go with that guy between the pipes. Phoenix Copley. It's hard. It's there's no one else really right now, right? It's just he's the catalyst for this turnaround for the Kings so far. What is it? 7-1 in 8 games? Is this Martin Jones all over again, where he just steps in and just wins every game he's playing? That's what it seems like. So it's the 2 C's. It's the calm and the confidence that we're seeing out of Phoenix Copley that's resonated throughout the team, and they're starting to win for it. And is long-term contract on the horizon here? I don't know. We'll see what happens.
No, stop it. And
$15 million, sign him right now.
The crazy thing is, and this is what's kind of funny, is it's not as if Phoenix Copley is like inserting himself into the Vezina. He's been just slightly above. He's been a little above league average, that's okay. Like I think his goals saved above expected per 60 is in the top 30 in the NHL. It's like in the 20s. Like, it's not as if he's but that's how dire the goaltending situation was for the Kings. Is like, just give us somebody that gives us hovering around league average goaltending, and he's been just slightly above that. But give us something to do that, and the Kings can win some games. And lo and behold, I mean, it's amazing.
So Tommy coming in here with that same exact question: if Copley stays hot over the next 25-ish games, do you consider extending him? And my question here is an add-on to that. Do you extend him instead of Jonathan Quick? Do you just let Jonathan Quick walk? And yeah, it would be nice for him to walk off into the sunset like a Dustin Brown and play for one team his entire career. But ultimately, hockey is a business. And if they don't feel like Jonathan Quick is that guy anymore and he still wants to play and it's not in our jersey, how would you feel about the tandem of Peterson and Copley next year, knowing that you know what you have in Phoenix Copley? Or do you explore the free agent market and not necessarily commit yourself this early into that discussion?
All still really early, obviously, but it does beg the question just the way he's been playing and the way the other two goalies have been playing. So, yeah, I don't know. With Jonathan Quick, I guess maybe that is the two that you're thinking about. But Cal Peterson also has to show up too. We can't just like let him come back just because he's signed. I mean, there is a buyout available too. I mean, you can't just keep a goalie who's on the team who's not playing well. I mean, like you said, this is a business too. So if we hope that Cal Peterson somehow finds his way in Ontario and does become that goaltender that we hope him to be, a starter goalie. And then we'll see what happens with Copley and Quick. Because, man, I don't know. If Copley keeps this up, like you said, Joe, he's not putting up Vezina numbers, but at 5-on-5, with goalies who have at least started 5 games, he's third in goals saved above expected per 60 right now. So, I mean, yeah, he's giving good and above average goaltending, and look what the turnaround has done for the LA. And this is why it's bringing up questions like this. If we're talking about Phoenix Copley being re-signed for the Kings' future, it's crazy.
No, certainly not to a multi-year deal. Like, I'm almost on board with any 1-year deal. I think, like, yeah, you could sell me on that almost any time. But I would also argue we don't know what we have at Phoenix Copley. Even if he does continue on, who's to say this happens next year? Goalies, especially, like, no one expected Phoenix Copley to play this well because his career track record did not suggest it. So are we going to then think that he has a good 20-game stretch to end the season and that's the real Phoenix Copley? I don't know. I don't think that we can confidently say that. So, no, I'm not extending him. I would wait and see. Now, again, if it's a 1-year deal, like I said, I'm good with like any 1-year deal. Just
all right. Well, here, let me go over some of the UFAs. And obviously anybody can get signed before here and then, but I'm just going to throw out some names, right? You have Jonathan Quick. You have Simon Varlamov, Ben Bishop, Frederick Anderson, Bernier, Cam Talbot, Tristan Jarry. You have Alex Nedeljkovic. Yeah. Blackwood, right? Mike Smith, Aiden Hill, Antti Ranta, Martin Jones, right? Like, so you have all these guys that have that other names out there that are going to be UFAs. It's like, is Phoenix going to be that high to where he needs a multi-year? Does he need to get extended before the end of the season? My thing is no. Like, look how many free agents are going to be out there. They don't know what's going on with Jonathan Quick. They don't know how the season's going to end for Cal Peterson. What if there's an injury and Cal Peterson comes up and lights the world on fire, and then you have more confidence in that player? So right now, no. Will he be in the discussion in the offseason? Yes, I think he will be, yes. But I don't think it's necessary to go this early and just ink him because he's playing well over a couple weeks.
What could be a big topic of conversation going forward, and we'll have to see how this changes maybe the landscape of the NHL, is how teams treat goaltending going forward. Are we going to stop seeing these long-term contract extensions being given to goalies now that scoring is just going up and up and up almost every game now, it seems? So maybe teams just kind of go back to those signing goalies to 1-year deals, and maybe you get a flash in the pan here and there and hope for another young guy to step up, because it's kind of what we're seeing across the NHL right now. We're just seeing these goalies come out of nowhere and start to take over. Look at Stuart Skinner up in Edmonton. He got himself a 3-year deal. You have that goalie in Carolina that I can't even pronounce his name, Piotr
Kochetkov, I think.
Kochetkov. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I mean he's
I could be wrong
looking
on
like
that, by the way.
he's looking like the Vezina winner right now. It's insane, and no one's even talking about Igor Shesterkin, who's kind of having a mediocre season. So I mean, goalies are hit or miss, and Joe's talked about it on end. It's just such a mental position that you could look great. You look like Patrick Wall one season, and in the next year you could look like Roman Chekmatic. So we'll see what happens going forward and in the summer.
Let's get to a little just update on Making It Rain. I mean, nothing big here. Just kind of go over the standings, see what they're doing. It is 4-2 as we are speaking now live on Wednesday. After one period, you have Austin Wagner getting a goal there from Hellenius and Muvare. Fagimo from Turcotte and Gauntz. Turcotte from Chromac, as stated earlier on the power play. And Elias Anderson. So Turcotte having a little 2-point night here, or 2-point period. Not bad. But the Reign not doing so hot this season as far as where they're at in the standings. Kind of meddling. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They're sixth place. They're only 7 points separating the Colorado Eagles and the Ontario Reign right now. But you're looking at games played. The Reign are the lowest in the league as well. So they have plenty of games in hand to make that up, but not as dominant as we've seen previously. Where they're barely above the goals for goals against in the positive 9 goals. So maybe it's because of players getting moved around, shuffled. Maybe it's just the fact that they're not as dominant last year, but they came out hot. They can get going again, and I think you might see some additions of the Brant Clarks and the other 20-year-olds that might be able to come up at the end of the season and play some key minutes for them. I haven't watched too many Reign games this year, but is there anything that anybody's seeing from the games that they have watched?
Well, what I'll say is I think it's encouraging, again, and we've talked about it, is the goaltending has been good. Villalta have been much better this season. And frankly, you look at Cal Peterson in his 7 games, he's got a .938 save percentage, so he is playing well. I don't know if he's in net tonight, Rando, if you had a chance to see the box score to see who's in. But I think the good thing is he's going down there and he's playing well. Like, I think that's all you can ask for, to hopefully help get his game back, get his confidence back a little bit. Because the funny thing is as you kind of talked about a little bit ago, Russ, with goalies and being kind of unpredictable, would any of us be surprised if Cal Peterson just showed up at the end of the season or if something happens with Copley or Quick and plays well? Like, I wouldn't, because there's just goalies are difficult, I think, to evaluate and to predict. I don't think we really know yet as I'll say analysts or whatever, as a hockey community, of appropriately analyzing the position. I think it's still something that we're learning more and more about from an analytical standpoint. I don't think there's as many numbers or that you can kind of delve into while there are plenty of them, to know which ones are going to be somewhat predictive, like you can with skaters. So I think the encouraging thing for me, going back to the Reign, though, is the goaltending, is Villalta, is Peterson, and obviously when Copley was there, was holding on the fort too. So I think that is a good thing.
It'd be interesting to see. We talked about the goalie situation this summer. Like, there's some hypotheticals out there, like you said, that Cal comes back, plays strong. They let Quick walk, and they let Matty Villalta, with the way he's been playing this year, get some games next season. I don't know if they'll go no veteran other than Matty Villalta, but eventually he should get a shot in the NHL, and he's been well deserving of his play this year. But that'd be interesting to see where he fits in the hierarchy of people who they feel can be the number 2 goalie in LA come the 2023 season. If Villalta is in that fray.
They're getting a lot more saves. They just haven't been quite as dominant offensively. And listen, let's not forget they lost one of the biggest goal scorers in the league in Martin Ferk. So I think that's a pretty big blow to the team. And I think it's really affected their power play. The power play was a historic one last year, and this year it's kind of, middle of the pack, if you will. I think it's right around 20% maybe. So I think you're seeing some negative effects there. So.
And Cal Peterson is in net tonight, Joe. It's 4-2 right now at the time. I think it's the first intermission. But another thing too with the Reign is their roster has kind of been decimated a little bit here lately. They lost 2 players to the Spengler Cup, Alan Kine and Toby Basson.
Yeah.
So yeah, both of those players who were big contributors to the team's success early on are not on the team. Then Jordan Spence is not on the team, who's probably one of their better players. Keel Thomas is obviously hurt. I mean, so yeah, there's a lot of kind of changes going on within the roster, and maybe that's hurting them a little bit. But I mean, it's not a big disappointment right there for them. I'm liking the goaltending. Cal Peterson hopefully can start picking up some wins. A little bit of a slow start for him lately. But yeah, Velato's looking decent, and Turcotte tonight, another goal and another point, 3 points in the last 3 games for him. So that's good to see too.
Is Francisco Pinelli an option at the end of the year after the OHL? Because he's having a hell of a season
for the Reign. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
because he's 19 right now.
Made the World Junior team. I thought he had a chance to play for Canada. He's a killer kid. He looks great. I mean, I love watching Pinelli play. It's so fun to watch. I mean, the World Juniors have actually been pretty fun. There's a lot of drama going on with all that Michigan talk and Canada and USA losing today. I mean, I'm loving the parity in it. I mean, as a U.S. fan, I'm not too happy about today's result. But hey, upsets are great especially for the international community of hockey. You like seeing Slovakia and Czechia win games. That's what these tournaments are all about. I love these young kids you kind of never hear of. Like last year, a couple years before, it was Ivan from Latvia. Becomes a household name now. But it's a great tournament. I love. If you're not watching the World Juniors, you should definitely try to catch a game or two because they're a lot of fun. And Kings have some prospects playing in it too.
A little prospect watch though for Pinelli. He is the captain for the Kitchener Rangers. He's 20-20 for 40 points right now. If that's projected out for the rest of the season, he would go 51 goals, 51 assists for 102 points in 64 games. Hell of a season. That would be 50 plus goals. I mean, that's a second round pick where you want to keep track of that kid and see where he comes in and plays, and that might be something to look at to see if you get a cup of coffee for the AHL. Because he'll be 20 in April. So I mean, I don't know where the cutoff is, so I'd have to do some research if he has one more season available in the OHL or if it's AHL next season for sure. But with the season he's having, he's definitely going to get a look. So, well, other than that, honorable mention for Player of the Week is my mom, Jill McMahon, for giving me one of these bad boys. A little Christmas gift.
Nice.
So yeah, Drew Doughty right there, getting the retro.
The Doughty reverse retro 2.0. Love it.
So I appreciate that. And then we're gonna go see a game on the road. So I don't know if we're all gonna meet in LA for a couple games. So I'll let you know, Russ, and we can meet up.
Yeah.
But we were also thinking they play the Kraken and the Vancouver Canucks back to back on the road. Going to dip into Canada. Get some poutine. See the Northwest. So we're trying to figure out when the game's going to be, but New Jersey's going to be in hand, going to be repping it sometime this year. So appreciate Mom for coming through in the clutch on the 25th there.
That's a nice looking jersey. That's for sure. These reverse retros are clean.
So last and awesome news that we're going to talk about is the first ever Hockey Royalty Watch Party. We did a little bit for the draft. But we're coming in here doing a watch party tomorrow for the Colorado game. It's pretty much just going to be a live feed of us watching the game, doing commentary in between the periods. We're going to be going in and out. We're definitely going to be having a lot of fan interaction. Might even pull you on if I'm feeling lucky. We'll see how it goes for the first time. But yeah, we're just going to let the ticker tape roll. Watch the game. Hopefully, come out with a W. You're going to see either our elations or frustrations live as they happen. I will be probably a little bit late to the game as I'm getting off work, but Russell and Joe will be holding it down for the first period, and I'll be joining them shortly after that. So we'll be sending the link out tomorrow during the day, so keep an eye out for that. If you're listening to it in your car on Thursday, get ready for it because it'll be the first ever watch party for Hockey Royalty, so keep an eye out for that. Find all of our articles at hockeyroyalty.com. Follow us on Twitter at hockey_royalty, at Rando Commando, at NHL Russell, at JW Paterino. Always use DraftKings with code THPN. And let's see this Kings keep it hot against the Stanley Cup champions going on the road. Let's get 2 points, boys. Merry Christmas. Let's get it going. And as always on this podcast, go Kings go.